Welcome to the European Association for Higher Education Advancement's YouTube and podcast channel. Today we're diving deep into cultural competency in university life. You've sent over some fascinating insights from the EEAM themselves, so let's get right into it.
It's a crucial topic, especially as our universities become more diverse and interconnected.
Absolutely. But before we get ahead of ourselves, how does the EEA actually define cultural competency? I know it's a bit of a buzzword these days.
You're right. It can be a bit vague, but the EEA defines it as the ability to understand, appreciate, and effectively navigate different cultures, customs, and perspectives. It's about going beyond surface-level knowledge and developing a genuine understanding of how culture influences our interactions.
So it's not just about memorizing facts about different cultures.
Exactly. It's about developing the skills to communicate and collaborate effectively with people from diverse backgrounds. And that's where things get really interesting, especially in the unique context of university life.
I can see that universities are like microcosms of the global community, right? You've got students from all over the world, each bringing their own unique experiences and perspectives.
The EAAO actually refers to universities as melting pots, which I think is a really vivid image. And this melting pot environment presents both incredible opportunities and potential challenges.
Okay, unpack that for me. How can this diversity be both a good and a bad thing?
Well, on the one hand, it's incredibly enriching to learn from people who have different perspectives. It broadens our horizons and helps us see the world in new ways. But on the other hand, these differences can also lead to misunderstandings or even conflict if we're not careful.
That makes sense.
All right.
I imagine it could be really easy to misinterpret someone's intentions or behavior if you're not aware of the cultural context.
Precisely. And that's where cultural competency comes in. It equips us with the tools to navigate these complex interactions more effectively. Let's take a concrete example. Imagine a group project with students from the US, China, and Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow. That's a recipe for some interesting dynamics. I'm already picturing clashes happening over deadlines, communication styles, or even just how direct people are with their feedback.
You're hitting on some key points. In this scenario, the U.S. student coming from a culture that values individualism and direct communication might be very straightforward with their feedback potentially coming across as overly critical or aggressive to the Chinese student.
That makes sense. I've heard that Chinese culture often emphasizes harmony and indirect communication.
Exactly. And then you have the Saudi Arabian student who might come from a more hierarchical culture where deference to authority is important. This could lead to confusion about decision-making processes and who takes the lead in the group.
So you could have a situation where the U.S. student is trying to be efficient and direct, the Chinese student is trying to maintain harmony and avoid conflict, and the Saudi Arabian student is waiting for someone to take charge. It sounds like a recipe for miscommunication and frustration.
It certainly could be. But with cultural competency, each student could start to understand the other's perspectives and adapt their communication styles accordingly. The U.S. student might learn to frame their feedback more constructively. The Chinese student might feel more empowered to share their ideas, and the Saudi Arabian student could take on a more active role in the decision-making process.
So cultural competency isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's about leveraging these cultural differences to actually enhance collaboration and creativity, right?
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that diversity isn't just something to tolerate. It's a valuable asset that can lead to better outcomes for everyone involved.
This is already making me rethink how I approach group projects, but let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about the importance of cultural competency in the classroom, but how does this translate to life beyond university?
That's where it gets really exciting. The EAHA makes a strong point about the professional implications of cultural competency. In our increasingly globalized world, the ability to understand and navigate different cultures is becoming a highly sought-after skill.
Makes total sense. Think about it, whether you're working on an international team, negotiating a business deal, or simply interacting with clients or colleagues from different backgrounds. Cultural competency can make all the difference.
Exactly. It's not just about being polite or tolerant. It's about developing a deep understanding of how culture shapes people's values, communication styles, and even their approaches to problem solving. These skills can be incredibly valuable in navigating the complexities of the global workplace.
This is really eye-opening. I'm starting to see cultural competency less as a nice-to-have and more as a must-have for success in today's world.
I couldn't agree more. And here's the thing, the benefits of cultural competency go beyond the practical advantages in the workplace. It also has a profound impact on our personal growth.
Oh, tell me more about that. I'm intrigued.
Well, when we encounter different cultures, it challenges us to step outside of our own comfort zones and examine our own assumptions and biases.
You mean like realizing that our way of doing things isn't the only way or even necessarily the right way?
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our own cultural perspectives are just one lens through which to view the world. And when we start to see things from multiple perspectives, it can be a truly transformative experience.
It sounds like cultural competency can help us become more open-minded, more empathetic, and more adaptable to new situations.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about understanding others, it's also about understanding ourselves better.
So how does developing cultural competency help us understand ourselves better? I'm curious to hear more about that.
Well, it's like holding up a mirror to our own culture, seeing it from a new perspective. We start to notice things we might have taken for granted before. We might even realize that some aspects of our own culture, which we always considered normal, are actually quite unique.
Wow, that's fascinating. So by learning about other cultures, we're actually learning a lot about ourselves in the process.
Precisely. It's a journey of self-discovery as much as it is a journey of cultural exploration.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the practical benefits of cultural competency to the personal growth it can spark. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. How do we actually develop these crucial skills? What are some actionable steps we can take?
That's a great question. And the EAUZA offers some really insightful guidance on this. It all starts with being proactive. Cultural competency isn't something that just happens passively. We have to actively seek out opportunities for cultural engagement and learning.
Okay, I like that, being proactive. What does that look like in practice? Give me some specific examples.
One of their top recommendations is to get involved in clubs or organizations that reflect different cultures. Universities are often hubs for all sorts of cultural groups, from language exchange clubs to international student associations.
Yeah, I can see that. You could join a cultural dance group, attend a film screening, or even just strike up conversations with classmates from different backgrounds.
Exactly. It's about immersing yourself in these environments and actively seeking out opportunities for cross-cultural interaction. And it doesn't have to be anything formal or structured. It could be as simple as trying a new restaurant that serves cuisine from another country or attending a cultural festival.
I love that idea of immersion. It's about making cultural competency a part of your daily life, not just something you study in the textbook.
Absolutely. And it's about being open to learning from every interaction, whether it's a formal cultural event or a casual conversation with someone from a different background.
This is all so insightful. It's like you're saying, hey, the world is full of opportunities to learn about other cultures. You just have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone and embrace them.
That's a great way to put it. And here's another powerful way to develop cultural competency. The EAEA recommends taking courses that focus on cross-cultural communication, international relations, or multiculturalism.
Those sound like fantastic options. I can see how learning about different communication styles, conflict resolution techniques, and cultural values could be incredibly helpful, not just in the classroom, but in life in general.
Precisely. These courses can provide you with a deeper understanding of the theoretical underpinnings of cultural competency, as well as practical tools for navigating cross-cultural interactions. And they're not just for students in specific fields. They can benefit anyone regardless of their major or career aspirations.
I'm already thinking about which courses I could add to my schedule. This deep dive is making me realize how much I still have to learn.
That's the beauty of it. Cultural competency is a lifelong journey. There's always more to learn, more to experience, and more to discover.
So we've got joining cultural clubs, taking relevant courses, and embracing those everyday opportunities for cultural exchange. Are there any other key strategies that EAAE recommends?
One of the most important aspects of developing cultural competency, and often the most overlooked, is self-reflection.
That makes sense. Before you can truly understand other cultures, you need to understand your own right.
Exactly. The EAES suggests taking the time to reflect on our own cultural background, our values, our beliefs. Where did these come from? How have they shaped our worldview? How might they be influencing our interactions with people from other cultures?
And I imagine that can be a pretty uncomfortable process at times. It might mean confronting some beliefs or biases we've held for a long time.
It can be challenging, for sure.
Okay.
But that's where the real growth happens. When we're willing to question our own assumptions, we become more open-minded, more empathetic, and more adaptable to different perspectives.
So it's not about erasing our own culture or identity, but rather about seeing it with fresh eyes, understanding its strengths and limitations.
Precisely. And that's where things get really interesting. The EAE suggests that this process of self-awareness can actually help us understand our own culture in a new light.
How so?
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Well, when you're exposed to different cultures, it's like holding up a mirror to your own. You start to notice things you might have taken for granted before. You might even realize that some aspects of your own culture, which you always considered normal, are actually quite unique.
Wow, that's a powerful image. It's like you're seeing your own culture from an outsider's perspective for the first time.
Exactly. And that can lead to a deeper appreciation for your own cultural heritage, as well as a greater understanding of how it fits into the broader tapestry of cultures around the world.
This is all so insightful. So if I can summarize what we've learned so far, it seems like cultural competency is not just a skill set, but a way of being. It's about being open, curious, and respectful of different perspectives, both our own and those of others.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And I think the EAEA would agree wholeheartedly. They see cultural competency as essential for navigating our increasingly interconnected world, both professionally and personally.
Well said. This deep dive has given me a whole new perspective on cultural competency, and I have a feeling our listeners are feeling the same way.
I hope so. And I'm sure we'll have even more insights to share as we continue this conversation.
I'm looking forward to it. This has been an incredible start to our deep dive into cultural competency. We'll be right back after a short break to delve even deeper into this fascinating topic.
So we were talking about how cultural competency can really impact your own personal growth.
Yeah, and it's honestly been so eye-opening for me. I'm starting to see cultural competency not just as like a skill you learn, but more like a journey of growth and discovery, you know?
That's a great way to put it. You're right. It's not just a box to check off. It's about fostering that mindset of curiosity and that respect for different perspectives, not striving for some kind of perfect understanding of everything.
Exactly. And I really like how the EAK highlights that impact that cultural competency can have, not just on how we interact with others, but also how we understand ourselves.
Yeah, like they're saying, hey, by opening yourself up to these other cultures, you're going to discover so much about who you are in the process.
It's true. Sometimes we get so stuck in our own little cultural bubbles that we don't even realize it, right?
Absolutely. We naturally see the world through our own experiences. But that's where the magic of cultural competency comes in. It's stepping outside of those bubbles and embracing all those different perspectives.
It can be challenging, though, can it? Like sometimes it means confronting our own biases or questioning assumptions that we've held for a long time.
It can be.
Yeah.
But that's how we grow. When we're willing to challenge our own perspectives, we become more open-minded and adaptable. Ultimately, that makes us more effective in a diverse world.
So what are some of the benefits that the EAAA highlights in terms of this personal growth aspect of cultural competency?
Well, they emphasize how encountering diverse cultures increases our self-awareness. It helps us to recognize those ingrained cultural biases and how they might be influencing our thoughts and actions without us even knowing it.
Like if you've never been exposed to a different way of doing things, you might not even realize that your way is just one of many.
Right, and once you start to recognize those biases, then you can start to question them. You ask yourself, why do I believe this? Or where did this assumption even come from? That kind of critical self-reflection can be so valuable.
And I imagine it also increases your empathy for people from different backgrounds. You start to understand where they're coming from, even if you don't agree with them.
Absolutely. Empathy is a core part of cultural competency. It's about putting yourself in someone else's shoes and trying to see the world from their point of view, even if it's completely different from your own.
Which can be really powerful, especially when you have conflict or misunderstanding. Approaching a situation with empathy makes it so much easier to find common ground and build those connections.
Couldn't agree more. And the EAECHI really emphasizes how important communication and understanding are for building relationships across cultures. It's respecting those differences, but also finding those shared values and goals that unite us in spite of them.
So it's not about erasing those cultural differences, but appreciating them and finding ways to connect.
Yes, it's seeing that diversity as a strength, not as something to be overcome. But moving beyond the why of cultural competency, let's talk about the how. The EADH has some great advice on developing these skills. What are some of their top recommendations?
Well, they really emphasize being proactive. You can't just hope that you'll stumble upon opportunities for cultural exchange. You have to actually seek them out. Okay, I like that. So what does that look like practically? Like, give me some examples.
One of their top suggestions is getting involved with clubs or organizations that reflect different cultures. Universities usually have a lot of diverse cultural groups, so you're bound to find something that you're interested in.
Okay, I can see that. like joining a language exchange or maybe volunteering at a multicultural festival or even just attending a lecture by a speaker from a different country.
Exactly. Those are great ways to immerse yourself in those cultures and learn from people with different backgrounds. And it doesn't have to be a formal event either. Sometimes it's as simple as striking up a conversation with an international student in your dorm, or trying out a new restaurant with food from another part of the world.
I love that idea of immersion.
Yeah,
It's not just about reading about other cultures in a book, it's about experiencing them firsthand.
And those experiences can be so enriching. They can challenge your assumptions, broaden your horizons, and even inspire you to learn more.
So besides joining clubs and things like that, what other proactive steps does the EAEA recommend? Because, not everyone is comfortable joining a bunch of clubs.
True, and the EA recognizes that. They also suggest taking courses that focus on things like cross-cultural communication or international relations or multiculturalism.
Those are good options.
Yeah.
Learning about different communication styles or conflict resolution techniques and cultural values in general would be so helpful.
Absolutely. And these courses can be valuable to anyone, not just students in certain fields.
I'm already making a mental list of which courses to add to my schedule. This deep dive is making me realize just how much I have to learn.
That's what makes it so great. Cultural competency is a lifelong journey. There's always something new to learn or experience or discover.
So we've got joining clubs, taking courses. Are there other ways to be proactive about finding those cultural exchanges?
Sometimes the best cultural learning happens outside of those formal settings.
That's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, the ET wants us to be open to those everyday encounters with people from different cultures. It could be as simple as choosing to sit next to someone new in the dining hall and just striking up a conversation. Or maybe you overhear someone speaking another language at the coffee shop. Don't be afraid to ask them about it.
I love those ideas.
Yeah.
So simple, but so powerful. It's about making cultural competency a part of your everyday life.
Exactly. It's about being curious and open in all your interactions. No matter where you are, the grocery store, the library, even just walking down the street.
It's like seeing the world as this incredible tapestry of cultures and being eager to learn from every single thread.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And that's what makes this whole journey so exciting. It's not just about learning facts, it's about expanding our hearts and minds to embrace the richness of human experience.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the benefits of cultural competency. But before we finish up, I want to go back to something the EEEA emphasized, that self-reflection piece.
It's so important, and often it kind of gets lost in the excitement of learning about other cultures, but, we can't really understand others until we've taken a good look at our own biases and assumptions.
It's like that saying, know thyself, right?
Yeah.
Before you can walk in someone else's shoes, you need to know what's shaping your own perspective.
Exactly. The EA encourages us to really think about our own backgrounds, our values, our beliefs. Where did these things come from? How have they shaped our worldview? And are they affecting how we interact with people from other cultures, maybe even without us realizing it?
I bet that kind of self-reflection can be a little uncomfortable sometimes, right? I mean, it could mean facing some beliefs we've always had and never really thought about before.
It can be tough, for sure. But that's where the real growth happens. When we're willing to look at our own assumptions, we become more open-minded, more empathetic, more adaptable to different ways of thinking.
So it's not about forgetting our own culture or who we are, but looking at it with a fresh perspective, seeing the good and the bad in it.
Exactly. And this is where the EAEA makes a really interesting point. They say that this self-awareness can actually help us understand our own culture even better.
Really? How does that work?
Well, when you're around different cultures, it's like holding a mirror up to your own. You start noticing things you might not have before. Those little things, those norms and behaviors that we all do. You might even realize that some things about your culture that you thought were totally normal are actually pretty unique compared to other cultures.
I love that. Like you're seeing your own culture as an outsider for the first time.
Exactly. And that can give you a deeper appreciation for where you come from, but also a better understanding of how it fills into the bigger picture of all the cultures in the world.
This has been such an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
If I could just sum up what we've learned today, it seems like cultural competency isn't just about skills, it's a way of being. It's about being open, curious, respectful of different perspectives, our own and others.
I couldn't agree more, and I think the EOEA would feel the same way. They see cultural competency as essential for navigating this world we live in that's so connected, both in our personal lives and our careers.
I agree. This deep dive has given me a whole new understanding of cultural competency. I think our listeners feel the same way. Any final thoughts you want to share before we go?
Just one. Developing cultural competency is a journey. It's something we keep learning and growing from. It never ends.
That's a great point. And it makes me think, how might growing your own cultural competency help you in a diverse world and also make you understand yourself and your own background better? That's something to think about. Please don't forget to follow the European Association for Higher Education Advancement on YouTube and social media.